Okay, chapter 28. They chose the grey man's shoulder, partly because it was a flatter surface, but mostly because when Blue tried to scale the giant's nose to reach his forehead, the giant had sneezed, and Blue had been coated in a thick layer of slime. Esker, Flint, Blue and Pebble sat on the grey man's shoulder with a sack of feathers, silently envying Balapan gliding above. The sky ahead was pink, and the sea around the icebergs almost purple as the light finally faded, and Esker swallowed. Somewhere out there was the legendary Frosthorn, and time was running out to claim it. The giant strode back, quite some way from the cliff's edge. "We're sort of in a hurry," Esker whispered. "Aren't you going the wrong way?" "You must never underestimate the wrong way," the grey man thundered, "because more often than not it turns out to be the right way." And just with a few more bends in the road, Flint nodded warily. Yet another detour. The giant spun around, and Esker and her friends clung to the rocky crevices in the shoulder. Then the grey man took an enormous stride forward, then another and another, and Esker dug her fingers into the cracks of the stone. "Hold on," the grey man hollered. "It's been a while since I made a jump, and I've no idea if my back will hold out during the descent." A look of horror washed over Flint's face, but Blue grinned. "Whee!" she shouted as the giant leapt from the cliff. "I tell Tomkin I jumped with a giant." They plummeted down, 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 with Balapan at their sides, past the puffins, kittiwakes and guillemots, crammed onto the rocky ledges, and Esker's stomach lurched. "And ran from wolves," Blue giggled. The horror plastered across Flint's face deepened, and then they landed on the snowy beach with a very large and slightly painful bump. The grey man dusted a clump of lichen from his leg. Not bad, considering. And Esker breathed out as she watched Balapan's preening her feathers nearby, and she thought how much less complicated life would be if she was an eagle. Still, they had made it down to the shore. A drop of many of the feather tribe had died attempting, and before them now was the sea, dark purple and loaded with icebergs. There were sharp seals and bearded seals dotted here and there on the flat icebergs nearby. Further out on the bridges, leaning towers, columned arches and pyramids chiselled out of ice, there was nothing at all. And Esker thought of her ma suddenly, and wondered whether she had stood on this beach and swum in the waters that broke over it. The grey man lifted the group from his shoulder and set them down by the shore, and they listened to the creak and the jostle of the icebergs moving. "The Frosthorn," the giant said quietly. "You'll find it among the last of the groaning splinters." He paused. "I would say more, but the truth is I don't know any more. I just remember many moons ago that the greatest of the sky gods left it there after breathing life into Erkenwald." And Flint glanced at the driftwood lying about the beach and swung his sack of feathers on the ground. "I have a plan, a rough one for if we get the Frosthorn," he said. "But how do we even get out the furthest icebergs in the first place? That's a jungle of ice. We'll need a kayak to steer us through." And the grey man knelt down beside them. "Or just a very convenient wind." He didn't explain any more, and minutes later the last of the colour drained from the sky and the night crowded in, and Esker's skin prickled. There would only be a few hours of darkness, and the nights were getting shorter with every day that passed. Then dawn would break, and they'd be just one day away from the midnight sun. You can't go on now," the grey man said. "It's too dark, and you'll need a rest and food." Pebble snuffled in agreement. "But I'll take you at first light." The grey man stepped back, and only then did Esker notice the abandoned igloo behind him. The slabs of snow were slightly misshapen, battered over the months of the winter storms, but it was good enough shelter for the night, and the group hurried towards it. "I'll keep guard through the dark," the grey man said, settling himself down on the rock by the shore, and he drooped his legs into the water and smiled. "It's good to be home." Flint and Blue laid out furs inside the igloo, while Esker clambered up the cliffs with Balapan. The eagle cracked open the gull egg and drained yolks there and then, but Esker pocketed as many as she could carry and stole back to the igloo. She crept inside. This was a former tusk home, and yet in the hour she had taken to forage for eggs, her friends had transformed the snowy dome. Flint had a fire going, and above it Blue had hung the magnifying glass infused with rainbow essence, and though from the outside the igloo looked just as a dark shape huddled on the foot of the cliffs, inside it glowed every colour possible. Turquoise danced over the roof, purple flicked across the floor, and gold shone on the walls. "It's beautiful in here," Esker whispered, "a pocket of Erkenwald not yet ruined by the Ice Queen." Flint cracked the eggs on the flattened stone he had placed above the fire, and then he looked at Esker. "We're going to find the Frosthorn," he said, "however far out on the groaning splinters it is." "But it's not just finding the horn, is it?" Esker whispered, and she saw to the rock leading the tusk guard towards the lost chambers. "It's everything that comes after that. Blowing it from the skies, getting the tribes to fight with us, stopping the ice cream from changing Erkenwald forever." She looked down. So many things to hope for. Flint nodded. But think back to where we've come from. The music box, the giant spear, the Nevercliffs, and the grey man outside guarding our sleep. It's going to be okay. We find Ma? Blue said. It wasn't a question, it was a fact, and Eska realised then that hope moved quickly. It could burn inside you one minute, and then just when you thought you'd lost it, you'd find it shining in the hearts of your friends. And she looked around the igloo. So long as one of them remembered to bring hope with them, perhaps things would turn out all right.